Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustiniaTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another daily download. We'll be going through the most recent Arsenal transfer news. Yeah, here we are. There's about 60 of you guys in here, so like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to go ahead and jump straight in. Today, we're going to be talking about Eddie Nketiah signing his deal. I have a community poll going on right now. Asking kind of, does Eddie Nketiah deserve the number 14? I know people have a difference of opinion on this kind of stuff. And so I wanted to get your guys' thoughts and feelings on it. So make sure you vote on that poll and we'll go through it in just a second. And also, we're going to be talking about Tielemans and kind of the fallout of last night / this morning around the Tielemans deal and where we kind of are at with that. But before we get started, one thing I do want to say and just make very clear, especially because there's a lot of new people to the channel, is that I get comments and like little messages around like people not liking the content that I'm making because I am chasing every single rumor and you should only talk about things once they're done. I'm going to say this with the utmost respect. Like, if you don't like what I'm doing, you don't actually have to watch. And I don't claim to be a journalist or know anything than anybody else. If I do get stuff, I let you guys know where I got it from or the source I got it from. I try to make sure that I'm not making things up either. Like, I show you guys the tweets, I give you guys the sources, all that kind of stuff. And it's up to you guys to decide whether or not you think there's any legitimacy to it. And I also don't act like every single rumor is real. You know, I will say on this channel that, oh, this looks like a smokescreen or this just looks like agent talk or whatever. But if you don't like the content, you can watch something else. You know, it just gets tiring feeling like, you know, if you don't like the transfer window and you don't like all the rumors and you think it's all crap, then why are you watching transfer content? It's very strange. So for everybody like that's new here, I don't claim to be a journalist or an in the know or anything like that. I present the information that I see online, that a lot of you guys see online. I give it to you guys. We discuss it. We talk about the validity and likelihoods and all that kind of stuff, the player, and then we move forward. So I'm not misrepresenting any information. And if you don't like it, get over it. All right. So there you go. But to jump straight in, let's talk about Eddie Nketiah. He has signed his new deal, and I don't think anybody here is like shocked, right? Because we've kind of already spoken about it several different times. Um, you know, it was originally when it was first kind of put out there that he had made a U-turn, and then the figures came out of the 100K per week, which, you know, from my understanding is more of like a 70K per week base that goes up to 100K per week based on like things that happen. But when it's reported, it's always reported, like even with the Fabio Vieira news, they reported his salary as 160,000. It was per month, but they did it that way. Usually they reported in per week, but in that instance, they reported it in per month so that people would just look at the figure and think that we were overpaying some young Portuguese player to come to Arsenal when in reality he's going to be earning like what, like 26K per week or something like that. So with Eddie, like we've already kind of went through the figures and all that kind of stuff. And you guys know how I feel. It's like, I think this is not really a risk per se, because with the base salary where it's at and Eddie's age, if, you know, he was not to work out, I think we could sell him. And it's just one of those things where if we were going to have to spend probably 30 to 40 million to bring in a, excuse me, a backup striker that was like significantly better than him, what would that mean that we wouldn't get? You know? So I'm kind of like, okay, well, now that I'm seeing the links and we kind of know what our transfer window is looking like and what our ambitions are, I do think you can look at the Eddie Nketiah, you know, extension as something that's not like that devastating. In the same breath, though, you know, I just still feel like if we were to sign it, Gabriel Jesus, which, you know, we may or may not, but it looks likely at this point, that we're Gabriel Jesus injury away from Nketiah starting a lot of games for us. And that makes me a little bit uncomfortable because I kind of veer more on the side that this could be just a, you know, how players are when they are looking for a new contract or an extension or looking for a move, and how the way that they play may be different than the way that they play on a regular basis. So it may have just been like a little bit of a hot streak. He was outperforming his XG. And so my hope is that this isn't a Willick type of situation where he was really hot for a small period and then we re-sign him and then he goes into like he's just average. You know what I mean? I hope it's not that. But my hopes for Eddie are, and once you've re-signed, like I'm not going to hold it. Like, of course, like my opinion won't change unless, you know, something like I see something like significantly better. But in the grand scheme, like I hope Eddie Nketiah does a good job. I hope he's a good backup for us. I hope he progresses and becomes the player that I think the club thinks that he is. We know that Mikel Arteta is very high on him, very, very high on him. So hopefully Mikel Arteta's footballing IQ is just significantly better than mine. I mean, I would imagine it is. So I think it's like a 5-year deal or something like that. And do pretty much said like the foundations of the squad are built on young talent, and in particular, those who have come through the academy system. Eddie was released by another club as a young man, but has always shown he has the attitude as well as the ability to become a top player. The fact that he signed a new contract is an important part of our squad planning for next season, and we are all delighted. Mikel said, I'm delighted Eddie is staying with us. He represents what we are all about and all the values of the club. We are very happy that he has extended his contract, and now we have to get to work to continue to develop the great talent and the person that we have in him. So obviously you're always going to speak very highly of a player that you just gave a new contract to, but that's high praise for Eddie Nketiah. I think they all think that he's going to be a top player. And, you know, I hope that he is. My, you know, I want to hold back on, you know, you guys know how I feel about it. So I just want to hope for the best for this, and that, you know, he's the player that we saw at the back end of the season, because I do think that he played well. I do think that he scored some crucial goals, and I think he did show a side to his game that I hadn't seen before. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and not, you know, go into a deep hole of despair because I wanted somebody else, or, you know, I had a preconceived, like fixed view on Eddie Nketiah. Hope he grows, hope he gets better. Hope he has a good season next season. Let's see what some of you guys are saying. Reggie says, given his 70K base and given what he has said in that podcast, and given that Eddie's body has matured over the season, I feel positive about him playing next season. Chuck Sham says, I think he will have his breakthrough season this time. I hope so. You know, Logic says, I liked giving Saka 7 and even ESR 10. I had no problems, but Eddie barely started a handful of matches. Saka and ESR done a lot before getting the new top contracts. Mikey B says, Eddie is a crazy finisher. The one thing I will say about Eddie is I think if he has the creativity and the service, he will score goals. Like, he is a goal scorer. I think my questions around him was always around his technical level. And I do think that he improved, you know, in his touch and his movement, you know, especially away from the 18-yard box, which, you know, I think he is more than just a poacher. I think that that's his super skill is being a poacher, but he improved outside of the 18-yard box, which I think was important. And you did see it at the end of last season. I like that he's a good presser. He works really hard. And so those are things that I'll never take away from Eddie. Where his level is at is where the questions, I think, come in terms of like, what level of striker is he going to be? But in reality, there's not a lot of teams like that have a world-class or top quality backup striker. Like, there really isn't when you look out there in the league. And when you look at, you know, some of the players that maybe we would have looked at, maybe if you look at somebody like a Shea Adams or, you know, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I don't think that I feel like those players are so much better than Eddie Nketiah. And if it would have cost us 40 million to bring in the likes of those types of players, somewhere around there, I don't actually think it makes sense to do that. So I can see why, from a business standpoint, this makes sense, especially if we're going at the window that it looks like we're going after. Let's just see where he ends up. Like 22, 23 years old is not very old for a striker. I do think we get a little bit like, oh, well, look at Holland. Holland is a freak of freaking nature. Like, nobody can stand up to Holland. We can't expect Eddie Nketiah to be that. But as a backup striker, I would expect 10 to 15 goal involvements next season, minimum. That's kind of what I would expect, especially if he's getting Carabao Cup and early FA Cup matches. BX Gunner says Eddie will be gone in 2 years. Don't worry about the numbers. Semi says they're giving all the big numbers to the kids. Eddie's getting the number. Ain't even that big a deal. Let's see. Zach 10 says, I like Eddie, but he effectively rules out 2 striker signings. Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this, you guys. I think the idea that Eddie Nketiah was going to sign that contract and then we were going to turn around and sign 2 strikers, I think was maybe, I agree. I think re-signing him pretty much rules that out. Just like a backup from Thomas Partey was effectively ruled out for me when they gave Al Neni an extension. So, but what we do know is that Arsenal want to go after Rafinha. And for me, it was all about 2 attackers, not necessarily 2 strikers, but 2 attackers that lift the level of this team. And so if they were to get like a Rafinha and Gabriel Jesus over the line and Nketiah was the backup, I do think you're fine there. Is it the top level that we could get? No, but it is somewhat of a process. It's the next step. And so we're not going to be able to address every single thing in one window. And it looks like we're trying to address a lot. So I'm not really that hung up on whether it's 2 strikers or an attacker and a striker. I really don't care. As long as we have 2 new attackers coming in. High Tech J says Eddie is a poaching goal scorer with our new creative and technical midfielders. Eddie will 100% score lots of goals. Arsenio says, I'm officially done with supporting Arsenal. Nketiah getting the number 14 shirt is the last straw. Once they gave him another number and start acting like the Arsenal of old, I'll come back. Okay. Ashers says shirt numbers went out the window at Arsenal when Gallas was given number 10. I mean, let's not act like Eddie Nketiah is the first player to get the number 14 that probably shouldn't have had it. Theo Walcott. So I think the number thing has kind of been gone for a while. Blaze says, did you see Gabriel's tweet when he defended Eddie Nketiah? Yes, I did see it. I put out my little funny tweet about it the other day. Like, I do think numbers mean something. And my personal view on the numbers is that I think they mean something. The number 7, the number 10, and in particular, the number 4, for Arsenal, the number 14 for Arsenal. I do think those numbers mean something. The number 9. So for me, like, the first time that I thought, like, because we saw that initial, like, little, they said it was a glitch on the Premier League website. Turned out probably wasn't a glitch, but it was Eddie Nketiah with the number 14. And so I was like, oof, I don't know how I feel about that. And then now it's confirmed. And, I don't love it. I don't, but equally, it's only going to get about 5 seconds of my time because we haven't respected the numbers for so long. And I don't even think the number 14 should be available. I think it should be, if you watch like the NBA, it should be like up, when you retire a number, it should be like hung up like at the top of the Emirates and could never be touched again. That's how I feel about the number 14. But if they want to give it to Eddie, that's fine. Like, I'm more concerned about making sure that we get the targets that we need to in order to progress. The number is not really gonna, it's not gonna get more than 5 seconds of my time. I feel some type of way about it, but it's not something that's gonna, wear on me. I'm over it. Dublin Gunner says, look, number 7 will always be Brady for me, but the notion that therefore nobody else should wear it ever again is ridiculous. Lucas says apparently Martinez has Brazilian agent. That's interesting. That doesn't surprise me. Elliot Roberts says the number 14 for Arsenal should be retired, plain and simple. Nketiah 14 is a joke. Reggie says, people, Theo friggin' Walcott had 14. Did you leave then? Walcott was good back in the day. I do think that he left somewhat. He scored a lot of goals, but you still almost were left wanting a little bit. But it just is what it is. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's other things that I can get more upset about. I'm more concerned about what goes on that pitch more than the numbers, to be honest. Saksham says he was an academy player. Saka, ESR, got the big shirt number that were not earned at the time. Lucas says, well, Walcott was an insane talent. Christopher says, yes, he was way better than Eddie. Walcott was very good in the beginning, I do think. So let's see. Tell me this and I'll tell you this. Says, I'm more concerned that his wages have multiplied by like 4. This time next year, all of our English players will be on 100+ grand per week. Well, we didn't get the wage bill down to not spend the wages. I think we worry about wages because we haven't been good. I don't think Liverpool fans are sitting there like, because if you look at the wage bills of the best teams in the country or in the EPL, they all pay crazy wages, or what would be considered crazy wages in comparison to maybe the lower part of the league and even other leagues across Europe. And so the reason why it's come into stark focus for us is because we haven't been good. We've given Mustafi big contract. We gave Socrates and Kolasinac big contracts. We gave Willian a big contract. So if those players play well, we won't talk about it. And so to me, it's more about the recruitment. And we didn't get rid of the wages to let them sit around in a bank. We have got to reinvest those into the rest of the squad. It's going to go to giving Gabriel Magalhaes a new contract, giving Gabriel Martinelli a new contract, keeping Saliba, keeping Saka. So it doesn't really worry me that much because as long as they're playing well, that's all that really matters. We only really worry about it because we haven't been good. I'm not, the wages are not, I'm not going to sit around and do the math on it, anymore, because we've gotten rid of a lot of the players that really were so bad that that's the only reason why we cared about what they were getting paid. I think if you wanted to keep Saka, I don't think you really care what you're paying him, really, as long as he stays and he continues to progress the way that we think he's going to. Tony says, in the end, unless the player's idol is Thierry Henry, they won't care for the number 14. I think it shows character to take that number. It's put up or shut up time for Eddie. I hope he does great. I just hope he keeps getting better. That's just it. Let's see. Lucas says, I'm confident we have one more big signing after Jesus gets done. So yeah, let's kind of move into the next conversation. There's 230 of you guys in here on a Saturday. I love that. Thank you for tuning in. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. So let's talk about Tielemans and what happened last night. So it's it was like last night or something like that, or yesterday afternoon where this kind of came out. And so this is Rob Dorsett from Sky Sports. He put out a tweet, and he's like, I think he's closely connected to Leicester, but he basically was saying AFC's interest in Leicester midfielder Youri Tielemans has cooled, making it more likely that he will sign a 1-year contract extension at the King Power. Arsenal will probably sign only one midfielder and have agreed a 34 million pound deal for Fabio Vieira. Mood between Leicester and Tielemans is still very cordial. And then Twitter erupted when that came out. And, Fabrizio Romano, I think, came out with a tweet quite quickly after that. And if I could just have a quick second just to pull it up. He says, this was kind of right after that tweet had come out, been told that Youri Tielemans is not considering to sign a new contract extension with Leicester now. Could be an option in September in case he doesn't leave, but not now. Arsenal are working on it since a long time, but no official bid yet. Other clubs are also interested. Ben Jacobs also kind of mirrored that, but also said that like Arsenal, it's a close to getting done. It's just a matter of the fee at this point, and then there's conflicting reports surrounding whether or not Arsenal would need to sell Granit Xhaka first, but the deal is still close and like there's nothing really to worry about. So, but in that time before, we got that confirmation, I know the way I felt was very much that I want this Tielemans deal to go through because I do think it opens up the door for Granit Xhaka to go. And for me, like as good as Granit Xhaka has done, over the last 2 seasons, um, and has really kind of turned the narrative around him in a different direction for some of the fan base. I think the way that it looks like Arteta wants to play, it just doesn't suit him, and it might be a good opportunity to move him on or at least bring in somebody that can play that position better than him, and he plays a more, peripheral role in the team. And when you say anything like that, you're really met with sometimes from a certain part of the fan base that it's disrespectful to say that we need to move on from Granit Xhaka because he's so misunderstood and he's just a really good player and we really should keep him on and blah 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 blah. I 100% disagree with that. I think two things can be true at the same time, that Granit Xhaka is a player that is probably underrated by a lot of the fan base and is better than what some of us give him credit for, but equally he needs to be upgraded upon so that we can move to the next level. And I do think that there's a limit and a ceiling when you're playing with Granit Xhaka. Um, and I think it's okay to say that without it being disrespectful or I don't think that that's a bad thing to say. And so just the feeling alone of Tielemans not getting done kind of put me into like oh my gosh, like if we're playing with Xhaka, Odegaard, and Thomas Partey next season, again, I don't think that that's good enough. And I get that for certain parts of the season, that midfield was very good, but it's still limited and we can still go up to another level. And I do think Youri Tielemans in that 8 position, giving us more of that attacking nous, in and around the box is the direction that the club needs to go in. So, needless to say, I was happy to see that the deal is still on, it's still close, and it's just about agreeing the fee. Whether or not that requires Granit Xhaka to be sold, I'm not sure, but it was also coupled with information around Granit Xhaka having interest from Serie A. And so this may be the summer where it happens. Maybe last summer when, we kind of went back on the deal with Roma and had Granit Xhaka stay, there was somewhat of a gentleman's agreement to just re-sign so we can keep your value and we'll sell you next summer. But if we were to bring in Youri Tielemans and this Vieira, and there's already Odegaard and Sambi's there as well. He's going to need some playing time. I don't really see where beyond having a more senior presence in the team where Granit Xhaka really makes sense anymore. And I think it's okay to develop past a player and develop into something different. And it's not crapping on him. It's just knowing that there might be interest there and we may be able to move him on and bring in Youri Tielemans to me feels like the right thing. But how do you guys feel about it? Do you think that he's underrated and we need to, hold on to him? What's the idea around that? Because, I think I've been more than complimentary of him this season. And last, I thought he played really well, but I think it's time to make a move in another direction. And I do think Leicester are also like they want to hold firm. They're like not a dumb club. They want to get as much money as possible. But Youri Tielemans is not going to sign an extension there. And that was mostly just coming from the Leicester side to try to hold firm on something. And so knowing that we're still, in talks to get Youri Tielemans feels like the right thing. Also, while you guys are letting me know in the chat how you guys feel about the Granit Xhaka situation, I am going to check out the poll about Eddie Nketiah. Does Eddie deserve the number 14? 22% of you guys say yes, 42% no, 36% says I don't care. So the majority of you guys do feel like he doesn't deserve it, which I felt like might be the case. Yo-Yo says Xhaka has long been Arteta's safety blanket. Letting him go will mean the manager can finally develop properly. iGamer says, ease Xhaka out the squad, don't push him out. Lynn Simpson says, as a squad player, but not to be a starter. Do you guys see Xhaka being in some sort of, this is a projection of who I believe Granit Xhaka might be over the last after 6 seasons of kind of seeing him at the Arsenal. But he's somebody that wants to be a leader, is quite loud, is quite visible, and wants to be a part of things, plays every single game for Switzerland and for Arsenal, and is like a leader type guy. Can you see him in a role where he has to kind of sit back and be a little bit on the periphery? I'm not sure that I see that. I think he would prefer to be somewhere where he plays every single minute, but maybe I'm getting that wrong. Nocturnal Gunner says, we absolutely need to evolve past Xhaka. I can't do another season of watching him start. I don't hate him, but it's time to go. Hakum says, Terry said the Tielemans deal will go through. I saw that as well. Lucas says, he looks like a fish out of water in the box. Fred says, it's time to move on from Granit Xhaka. Josh says, good riddance. Maxi says Elneny does a better job than Xhaka. That's a big shout. Tell me this and I'll tell you this, says 100% our worst signing of all time. Unknown user says I would keep Xhaka and get Tielemans, and we need depth, or one injury could cost us our season again. Nick Knack says Leicester will have to take what they can get for Tielemans at the end of the day. And that's the thing. It's like you get to a point in negotiations where they want to hold on, but also they need to sell Tielemans in order to, if they know Tielemans is going to go eventually, they want to do it quickly so that they can reinvest and get a new player in. I'm sure they're looking at somebody. I think they're looking at like Cacaret from Lyon. So they need to go ahead and get this done sooner rather than later. They don't want to wait until the end of the transfer window and then not have the options to replace, because Leicester do need a little bit of surgery. So I still think that this goes through. I think everything out there in the ether would say so. I don't know if Granit Xhaka needs to leave or not, but the most positive thing that I did see is that there's interest from Serie A and he may go, and the Tielemans deal is still on. Lucas says Leicester is like, please give us more than 25 million. Zach 10 says, I think we'll get Tielemans, and then our technical hub will be the first project youth back in 2008. Let's see. Keenan says Partey isn't perfect for the 6 in a midfield 3. I think Elneny works in that role than Xhaka. Yeah, I think Elneny can play the 6 by himself. Obviously, you don't want him to have to play too many games in that position. You really don't. We've seen what that's like. I do think Partey is perfect in that role for the way that Arteta wants to play it. And a conversation that we've kind of been having in several different group chats is finding out the identity of the team, finding out what Arteta wants the team to look like and how he wants to play. And I think some Gooners are having a difficult time coming to grips with the idea that the types of players that Arteta is going to go after are probably going to be more on the technical side and a little bit more on the jugo de position, positional football, that type of football. And some Gooners, I think, had the idea that we were going to go after some more power and pace. And so coming to that reality is kind of like a damn, is that really what I want to do? Because we have our preconceived notions and our preferences and wants for the team, but they can be very different than what the manager wants. And so we're finally finding out what team Arteta wants to be or what kind of style he wants to play. And so I do think Partey is actually a better fit than somebody like a Basuma or somebody like that, because like Rodri that plays for Man City, the CDM has to be able to play football. Like they have to have the same technical skill as everybody else, but be a little bit more physical in stature and be able to do a little bit of defensive work. So I actually think Thomas Partey fits perfectly for that sixth role, but he does need backup. He does need backup because of his injuries, but I thought he played it perfectly from December to March. I thought he was almost unplayable during that time. Even against some of the top teams, he was running the midfield. Sparata says, I don't care that much if we're asking, does he deserve? Well, no. Oh, you're talking about Eddie Nketiah. Reggie Perry says Vieira totally needs to adapt about 7 kilos of muscle. That guy is so small. But again, we've seen small players in the past, the likes of, Modric, Conte, and Bernardo Silva be able to adapt to the Premier League being really small. You gotta almost be smarter than everybody else, and I think he does have the footballing IQ, but he needs to eat like Sambi and Emil. They all need to eat some chicken and rice and get in the gym for sure. Let's see. Yeah, Craze says David Silva. He was also pretty small. Ivy says, what happened to the DM in Brazil, Danilo? We didn't go for him anymore. I could have sworn I saw that he was being looked at by somebody, but like in a different league. So, we were looking at him. I don't know if that's somebody that we would go after. I know that he was talking about needing to learn English so that he can move to the Premier League. So I don't know about Danilo, but it looks like those links have kind of all but disappeared. Let's see. Saida says Xhaka should have moved on years ago. Yes, he played better this season, but his best isn't enough for us. His leadership qualities may be good, but we can't keep holding on to him only for that. Hakum says he's like that stick bug from Bugs Life. Rye Dog says Fabio is the same size as Foden. It's not that small. Footballers are mostly tiny. I'll say like it's just if you're smaller, you just have to be smarter and know how to use your body and know how to evade pressure. And the key is like just not being in a position like I don't imagine Fabio Vieira being on the edge of our box, with the ball trying to dribble out. And I think that was the issue with Sambi is he was in such a dangerous position, at the edge of our box trying to evade pressure that he would just get ran over. And sometimes it did look like a foul. Other times it just looked like he, was tackled cleanly. But I think Sambi being smaller in the position that he's playing is more of a risk than somebody who like Vieira, who I would imagine early on in his Arsenal career will probably be playing in the wide areas and then be moved in centrally as he gets more used to things. So I think it depends also on like what area of the pitch and how shocking it would be for you to lose possession there because you got a hard tackle. And so I think Fabio Vieira will be fine, like you said, like Foden and like David Silva and like Bernardo Silva. I mean, the names that we're saying right now, it's pretty clear what direction we're going in, I think. So let's see. So yeah, let's also kind of oh, Yo-Yo, this is a good comment. Yo-Yo says Emirates era has long been a technical side. People cried about the club deviating from P&P. I mean, we've been a technical, team, like you said, for a while, ever since kind of Arsenal, I think, took a couple pages. Oh, sorry, the door closed. Took a couple pages out of, Barcelona's book back in like 2008, 2009. So that's just kind of who we are. Arteta also, I wish I could find the little clip, but it was a piece that, was written and he was talking about like when he played for Arsenal, they had like Wilshere and Rosicky and Santi and Kleb and all these different technical players that can pop into all those positions. I mean, Santi could play right, left, forward, and midfield, deep in midfield. He could play all those positions. Rosicky was very flexible. So was Kleb. And we know Wilshere was like such a good technical player. So Arteta wants to go back into that. And if we're really honest with ourselves, I don't know if you could actually think of anything else. I don't know why I thought we'd go into P&P. I really don't, because and I think more of the P&P type signings are actually the ones that are linked to Edu and the more technical ones are always more linked with Arteta. Doesn't mean that they don't like each other and they don't get along, but it just seems like there's maybe a difference there. And you come from La Masia. You come from La Masia. You come to Arsenal and you play during Arsenal's technical regime, and then you go become a second assistant at Manchester City. I don't know what I was thinking, but we were never going to be a PNP team ever, 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 ever. So tell me this: Santi could drive a car and make love at the same time while still not making a player. Bless Carzola, a baller. I don't think we knew what we had until he was gone, to be honest, because he was just that good. Ayathuka says, how do you line up Arteta's starting 11 if we got Jesus, Rafinha, Vieira, Tielemans, and Lissandro? I have to say, out of all of the links, like this is going to sound really bad, but out of all of the links, the one that excites me the most is Lissandro Martinez. Like, I just like that guy so much. I know he's small, but he's so good. Okay, so I guess I would line up with see, here's the difficult part. Like, where do you put Rafinha and where does that leave Saka? And do you move Saka onto the other side? I think you do. So the front line would be Saka, Jesus, Rafinha, whichever side. I don't know who moves, but somebody moves. Somebody plays on the left, somebody plays on the right. I would say Tielemans, Partey, Odegaard. And then Tierney, Gabriel, White, Tomiyasu. And the reason why I say that is because Saliba and Lissandro, although I do feel like are going to give White and Gabriel a good run for their money. Like, I do think that White and Gabriel, if Saliba stays and if Lissandro Martinez comes in, they're going to be looking over their shoulder. They are going to be looking over their shoulder. Those guys are going to be pushing. But I do think until I see them play, it'll be hard for me to say that they'll just start games right away. But that's the lineup that I would kind of go with. Also, Lissandro Martinez makes me a little bit more comfortable with maybe not getting another DM because he can also play in that position as well. So that's how I would line up. But obviously, we have to get all those players over the line. Subsystem says Arsenal became technical ever since Wenger came to the club. Fair enough. It started maybe a little bit earlier. I would say that, like, he inherited a really good team and then he added more technical players in it. Like, obviously he brought in Cesc, and I always thought Jose Antonio Reyes was quite technical as well. And as we moved into the Emirates era, we got more and more technical, but he did inherit quite a PNP like team. And that's what a lot of people associate with Arsenal, is having the athleticism and all that kind of stuff, but also like put respect on it. Like, Vieira was no Sissoko. Like, the guy had tech. So I think it was the combination, but it's hard now. Like, I don't see a lot of players out there that have PNP and the technical skills. So it's hard now. Let's see. Sakshem says, I would prefer Lissandro over Crying Merchant. Who's Crying Merchant? Are you talking about Lucas Torreira? I was calling Lissandro Martinez technical Torreira because that's pretty much what it is. Oh, Crying Merchant is Zinchenko. Got it. Rydog says Lissandro over Zinchenko. Fair. And Lissandro Martinez is probably on lower wages. I did read something about the Zinchenko thing. He would be on wages that, he'd probably want more wages. And Lissandro, coming from Ajax, could probably do a very similar job and play 3 positions instead of 2 and also have less wages, which is cool, which I like. Anike says, Adu has made me eat all of my words in the last few days, and I couldn't be happier. He went technical director school last weekend. No, I hear you. Like, I will wait a little bit until I see these deals get over the line, because we could go after all these players and something could still happen. Jesus looks like it's going to get done. Tielemans is going to get done. But Rafinha and Lissandro Martinez, if they get those 2, we're cooking. So, yeah, I like that. Let's see. Billy says Lissandro can play DM at a very good level. Bring him in. So yeah, Sekshem says Lissandro is a bully. We need bad boys. So yeah, I like those signings. So just kind of talking about just to wrap it up here, I do want to just touch on, where we are with Gabriel Jesus. Arsenal have today submitted a 42 and a half million euro offer for Gabriel Jesus, which they are confident that Manchester City will accept. That's coming from Risa. Risa's very, very, very well connected and very, very reliable. So that deal looks like it's on the downslope, ready to get done. Um, when it comes to the Tielemans thing, I also want to put out there that Sasha um, Taviolari, who's a Belgian reporter, was saying that there will be some time before the first bid is made so that all parties are happy with the conditions. So I do think the Sky reporter's tweet plus what's coming out from the Arsenal side of things all kind of come together to create a picture of this is negotiations. So I think we can relax on that might get done. And then, yeah, like I said, from actually, it wasn't Ben Jacobs, it was Jacobs from the Times, was the one who came out and said that Granit Xhaka may end up leaving the club this summer. And last but not least, Bellerin has offered to waive his wages for the remainder of his Arsenal contract in compensation for letting him leave. Arsenal are hoping to get around 10 million euros for Bellerin. So we know that the issue with Bellerin and Betis was that they didn't want to pay his wages. So, hopefully there's some sort of compromise between Betis, Arsenal, and Bellerin that can get that deal done. Getting 8 million pounds or whatever it would be for Bellerin, I think would be as good as we could possibly get. Um, and Nottingham Forest move to sign Ainsley Maitland-Niles is already kind of started. And this is coming from the Northern Echo. And the initiative is a loan with a obligation to buy is what's out there. So yeah, it looks like things are moving along. I what can you say? If we could get all these deals done, I don't think I can complain. So, and we'll be in a position where we could really judge Mikel Arteta, which is the position that I want to be in. Like that's the position that I want to be in. So, yeah, there's 477 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. This was just going to be a short one. Can't stay for too long, but make sure you guys just, support the channel and get it in the comment section and let me know what you guys think. And I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get some good news. Bye, guys.